Mass Effect in 7 Day 2025. It is coming up. We are less than 2 months away. Uh, to anyone who follows me, who isn't a Mass Effect fan, this is going to seem really silly. Why is he talking about a fan celebration day 2 months ahead of time for a game we know almost nothing about? And that is because I live off hopium and a little bit of copium. So I just want to talk about what I think we could get for this upcoming N7 Day 2025 celebration, and kind of why I believe that with what we've gotten over the last year, what we've learned, and so on. So let's jump into it. So this year, I think it's going to be very defining what we do or don't get this year. I do not expect to find out the setting of the game, the protagonist, the antagonist, the time frame this game takes place in. I don't even expect to get a subtitle for it. There's all the arguments that have been happening for the last couple of years of, oh, it's Mass Effect 4, no, it's Mass Effect 5, blah blah blah. When at the end of the day, it's almost certainly going to be Mass Effect something. Not hopefully not Andromeda 2. And not because I don't want a sequel to that game, but just that would be a bad name for a game. But all of that stuff has just been, I think, bored people arguing about things that don't matter, right? I think that it's realistic to believe we'll get more than last year, right? Which was literally nothing. If you remember, in 2024, just weeks before Dragon Age, the Veilguard had come out. That was their first game that had come out since Anthem. If you don't count Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which was a pretty light remaster, not really a full-fledged giant project for them. That game came out. We didn't even know last year, or at least we weren't sure at the time that Veilguard came out, that the Mass Effect team, the pre-production team that is already relatively small, had been working almost exclusively on Veilguard for a year or so at that point. So honestly, the fact that we got a trailer in the 2023 N7 Day and some little things there was kind of surprising in hindsight, especially because that was likely the first trailer that we got that was actually made by BioWare. The previous trailer back in 2020 we know was made by like an outside studio under the direction of BioWare. So for 2024, we literally got nothing. We got some cosmetic armors in Dragon Age the Veilguard, which I believe we'll look back on one day and we'll be like, oh, okay, they were hinting that to us back then. We just didn't know, because you can't know what you don't know, right? Hindsight's always 2020. Which is how I felt about pretty much all the teases that we've gotten and all the rumors and stuff like that. Obviously, one day we'll look back and be like, oh, that's why, Liara was talking to, someone with a garbled voice in that 2022 teaser. I think it was 22. And so on and so forth. I am hopeful that here in this 2025 N7 Day, we're way more likely to get something. My honest expectation is something along the lines of a bunch of concept art, bunch of kind of vague statement of, oh yeah, we're working hard, blah blah blah. It is worth remembering that at the beginning of this year, along with layoffs that were announced, or permanent relocation of BioWare people to other studios, we also got confirmation that they were full in on Mass Effect. I believe that was back in February of 2025. Because of that, that makes me believe that we likely will get something. It'll be bigger than last year. We'll see just how big. We could hope for another trailer. I do hope if they do something like 2023, where they released that like 30-second trailer, but did it in 10-second snippets over like 5 hours, I could go without that. It created a lot of buzz. It probably did what they wanted it to, and I don't blame them for that. If you're going to make us wait that long, please, for the love of all that's good, give us a little more substance, a little more something there. I think that, there's always a possibility they could do some like Q&As, do like a video with Mike Gamble and maybe some other leadership on the team to try to, actually give us some faces behind what's going on. They would probably be pretty smart to trot out some of the veterans at BioWare who are still there, who are still working on the game. While there are likely a lot of new people there, we also know that there's a ton of people who are veterans, with Mary DeMarley, the writer, being basically the only new person in leadership. And then we know that there's, I remember one example was people asking to make sure to keep the armor grounded in the next game, the cosmetics. And Gamble saying the person in charge of that has been there since Mass Effect 1. So, whether or not that matters, who knows? But I think doing some kind of Q&As or some kind of, dev blogs or something could be good. That'd be a nice thing. I will say that I think this year's N7 Day will kind of kick off the beginning of the kind of media campaign for the next game. If you look back to Dragon Age the Veilguard, when they officially announced that game and announced that it entered production, they went into a pretty steady amount of blogs and various updates on the game and things like that. And that should be around the same point we're at right now with the next Mass Effect. They presumably should be close to announcing full production. My whole theory on that for a while now has been that they're going to use Codev Studios and likely bolster their own numbers a bit. Mark Dara said in a video not too long ago that he doesn't even believe they currently have enough developers at BioWare to begin full production. And he himself seemed to believe that they'll either co-dev with other studios and or hire up themselves. One thing to keep in mind is that we're only about a month out, a little bit less, from Battlefield 6, which is using EA Motive, which is basically a sister studio of BioWare Edmonton at this point. I believe it's even a former BioWare building in that way. And, they're working on Iron Man as their own game, but they've also been doing the single player of the next Battlefield game. Well, presumably there won't be single player DLC for Battlefield 6. I suspect they'll move on from that. And I would almost guarantee that the resources that were going to that will either move over to helping co-dev another game or to help them wrap up Iron Man. Either way, I could see those resources eventually coming to BioWare and helping them develop the next Mass Effect. The other studios helping with Battlefield, I suspect, are going to be on that full time because those are the multiplayer focused ones, and they'll likely be making lots of content for that game over the next few years. So all of that stuff could get announced. We could see some kind of, talk about how they're going to even develop the next game. I'm not expecting them to rehire BioWare from, the rumors are right now around 100 employees, maybe a few more, maybe a few less. I don't expect to see a BioWare that's 500 plus strong at this point. It may be ever again. And that's not really the trend in the industry. So that wouldn't surprise me, even if it's whether it's a good or a bad thing. I suspect, we'll get some new merch. We'll get some new Shepherd jackets. We'll get some new, things like that. It would be interesting if they did kind of like the helmet I have behind me here. If they did something like that new agent helmet that we saw in that 2023 trailer and the poster and all of that. They're gonna, I assume, do some at least teasing or maybe some explanation of what that crazy poster was back in 2023. If you remember the one that in the middle of the agent's body, the N7 agent that we have kind of referred to them as, there's this bar scene that has like an Angara, has a Geth, has a bunch of other species, maybe even a Ralloy at one point in there. There's even been some speculation that like we might see Garrus in there and maybe even Joker, maybe Liara as well. We don't really know. I'll probably do a whole video, or when I do my everything we know about the next game video next month, I'll probably focus in on that a bit more. I'm still to the point where right now I just suspect that it was just fan bait. That was just some fan service for them to get us excited, but who knows? So what I believe about this next N7 Day is that it will get something. I think it has to be more than last year, because last year, like I said before, we literally got a post on social media being like, hey, it's gonna be a light year this year. And I think they even warned us of that. So don't expect too much. We just released the game. There's going to be more in the future. Well, this is the future. And in a lot of ways, this is likely going to be, hopefully, their kickoff to kind of push in the next game. And after what we saw happen with Dragon Age the Veilguard, which came out, 10 plus years after its previous entry, which was Inquisition, we see that they didn't do the best job of getting people back into that franchise, back into that IP, educating people who had never even heard of it to try to get new customers. I hope they learn their lessons from how that didn't work out very well for Veilguard, and that we'll see this big relevance campaign for Mass Effect that likely begins here at the end of the year. So we'll have to wait and see. They have some stiff competition coming up with Owlcats, the Expanse game, Archetypes, maybe Exodus game, if we ever actually see that game really exists. I don't know. But if you're into this, sci-fi RPG space, there's a lot of fun stuff coming, and I think Mass Effect will end up being one of the more exciting projects. If you want more news and updates on the next Mass Effect, on BioWare, or just gaming in general, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button so more people see this video, and if you really want to support what I'm doing here, just a bit extra, consider becoming a YouTube member. You get videos just like this one a bit early, as well as some other perks. If you want to see the other things I'm working on or other ways to support, look at the links in the description of the video. That is all I have for this one. So until next time.